Okay, perfect. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a meeting of the Silverton Housing Authority. Oh, roll call.
Trustee Huber.
Present.
Brosh.
Here.
Mr. Robertson. Here. Mr. Wakefield.
Here.
Mr. Here.
It is 5:05 PM and I call this meeting to order. Good to go. Let's open it up to public comment. Seeing none in person, we're going to close public comment and go online. Any online public comment? Seeing no hands raised, we will close public comment and go straight to the agenda. Staff or board revisions?
Oh,
Oh,
I noticed a discrepancy between the housing authority agenda and the agenda that's the main agenda. So 5 directors report, 6 Charles Housing Partners, 7 Anvil Townhomes LLC first month declaration for Anvil Townhomes, 8 resolution 2026-02.
oh, yeah.
You guys see that?
Yeah.
Wait, what are we missing in? I can revise it. The HOA declaration.
Memo,
Okay, should be 6.
First Amendment declaration.
The housing authority agenda in the housing authority packet in the packet is right.
Our agenda doesn't have the fence thing on it.
Yeah. Okay, that's all.
Good.
My last name is spelled wrong.
Did I do that?
If that matters.
Where, in the meeting minutes?
And present.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was me.
no worries.
And spelled wrong.
I don't know if it matters, if it makes it, it's a legal binding document.
Okay. We'll have the June 22nd, 2026 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Good. We have a first and a second.
Great, Trustee Huber.
Yes.
Trustee Brosh.
Yes.
Ms. Robertson. Yes. Trustee Wakefield.
Yes.
Secretary
Yes.
and Harper.
Yes. All right. Number 5, director's report.
This is pretty straightforward. The only thing I'm gonna call out is we sold our 3rd townhome. To a lovely family. And then I guess also we hired a new housing director. So for the public, this is Debbie Harrison Zarkis. She is my successor. And yeah, for the sake of time, I'm not going to dive into the director's report unless there's any questions on anything. Okay. Okay.
So exciting. All right. Number 6, we have a presentation. Trellis Housing Partners.
So staff was approached by Trellis Housing Partners with a proposal to apply for a grant through PAPA. It's a Proposition 123 land banking grant. To purchase part of the Mineral Creek home development. I am gonna kick it over to Tanner in a second to really go through everything. The only comments that I want to share prior to that presentation are just examples of this happening in the past in Silverton. So in 2022, the town of Silverton applied for and was awarded a grant to purchase this Benoni parcel. And we're holding that property for the purpose of affordable housing development in the future. And then the county did something similar in 2008. They purchased what is now Anvil Mountain subdivision. And also included the master plan goals and our housing authority mission and vision. Just to remind everyone what our goals are, what our mission and vision are as we consider this proposal. You are not making a decision this evening. We are seeking direction to review the terms of the purchase and sale agreement and review the land banking proposal. And Tanner with Trellis Housing Partners will tell us a little bit more about what the next steps look like, but you are not committing to anything this evening. This is just an educational, putting it in front of you. And with that, Tanner, if you're with us, we are promoting you to panelist and you'll have to accept that, that invitation and then you can talk.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Does this have the ability for me to, here it is, share my screen?
Do you see something popping up saying Town of Silverton is inviting you to be panelist?
All right.
Hey,
Hi, everybody. I have a short presentation to share with you today. Just to start with an introduction, my name is Tanner Crawley. My firm is Trellis Housing Partners. We are a consultancy, brokerage, and an affordable housing developer. We work with all kinds of entities from nonprofits, community land trusts, local governments, local and regional housing authorities, you name it. The program that I'm going to talk to today is the Prop 123 Land Banking Program. This has been a program that we have worked with a lot in the last several years. So far, we have closed 6 of these projects and applications all over the state, including neighboring communities and other rural resort communities like Georgetown, Leadville, and Fort Morgan. We have a few more applications in communities like Glenwood Springs, Breckenridge, and Silt that are all under final consideration from the most recent statewide round. And just to give you a quick overview of how the program works, it was created and funded via Proposition 123. It's my understanding that Silverton has been excellent and has already met the goal, has implemented fast track entitlements and done a lot of things to remain in compliance with the program. So this land banking program is one of 3 funding programs administered by CHAFA.
Could you turn the volume up a bit? Okay.
Here's an overview of the 3 funding sources that are on the CHAFA side. There's concessionary debt and concessionary equity. Those are for project level financing after the construction loan closes. Today, we're speaking specifically about land banking, which functions very differently. To try to explain the program concisely, it is really intended to help local governments and nonprofits buy land for the future development of affordable or workforce housing. And to do that, they tried to structure it in such a way that removes lots of the risks and removes the future land costs to help facilitate the eventual affordability. So to be an eligible applicant, the applicant must be a nonprofit or a governmental entity. And CHAFA and OEDIT will fund 100% of the land costs, up to $5 million, which is the per project maximum, or up to the fair market value of the land evidenced by a third-party appraisal. They structure it as a recoverable grant if there's a governmental applicant. If it's a nonprofit, they structure it as a forgivable loan, but for the purposes of our conversation today, it would be structured as a recoverable grant. It's a little bit of a strange term, a recoverable grant, but what it looks like is that there are 2 required milestones. The first is to submit a high-level site development plan, have the correct zoning, and complete anything like an annexation, which wouldn't be needed in this case. So that's the first milestone, the 5-year milestone. The second milestone is having a financial close for the affordable housing project. That needs to happen within 10 years. If both of those milestones are met, the recoverable grant becomes an unconditional grant. However, if those milestones are not met, then that recoverable grant must be repaid. There's no interest or accrual on that. There's simply a repayment mechanism. The project can't proceed. It can be conveyed to another affordable housing entity in exchange for loan forgiveness, which helps offset some of that back end risk. So really the program is intended to try to design or impose as little risk as possible on the borrower while giving a really long runway to be able to go execute the project up to 10 years. A little layer of nuance beyond that is that the program is pretty flexible. It allows for some component of market rate or commercial development, so long as the predominant use is affordable housing. So they require 70% of the project to be affordable. And what they mean by that is if you do a affordable home ownership project, it targets households earning 100% of area median income or less. If it's an affordable rental project, it targets households earning 60% AMI or less. I want to caveat that by pointing out that rural resort counties can submit an income limit petition to DOLA to evidence a housing need above those AMI limits, which would allow you to serve higher incomes up through the middle income ranges if needed. I previously helped Summit County do that to leverage this very same program to target higher AMIs. So there is some flexibility in household served. And you can utilize mixed income structures so that you're not having to provide all of the units at the same AMI. You can provide some lower, some higher, and be able to serve a range of demographics. The land banking program requires affordability of up to 30 years. Generally, the affordable period can exceed that if you're utilizing other subsidies as well. And one really important thing to note is the program creates really great strategic alignment because CHFA know what it understand that land banking is just a start. It's not enough subsidy to facilitate the affordable project on its own, but it is a good starting point and creates nice strategic alignment to get future affordable housing subsidies like tax credits, like homeownership grants, like Prop 123 equity or other workforce housing funding sources. Importantly, there is a round that will be released this Q4 of this calendar year. And what makes it especially compelling is that it is a rural and rural resort focused round. So they are excluding any urban areas, most of the Front Range, and really targeting communities like Silverton. And it's really helpful because this funding source is quite competitive in the statewide round. They've done this rural and rural resort round once before, and it was much easier to navigate the competitive process. And in fact, if an application went in early, there was a near certainty of being funded. They are doing it on a rolling first come, first served basis. So time will be of the essence, and it will be important to get an application in relatively soon when they open the letters of intent for application. I'll get into the timings and steps of the process a little bit later. We don't know the exact application timing in Q4 yet. CHFA is still working on their funding plan, but we expect it will be published by the end of the month, which is the end of this week. So there's a little bit of a moving deadline, but sometime here in Q4. So the proposal at hand is that the existing owner of this parcel, which I'll walk through an aerial in a minute, is proposing to sell a full block and then a portion of a subsequent block to the town or the housing authority in this case, excuse me, for $4.136 million. And that price is pegged to an appraisal they had performed earlier in the year and tied to the per lot values. Having an appraisal is one of the things CHFA requires for this application. So having that appraisal on hand is helpful because it can be part of the application without incurring additional pursuit costs. But one of the key things of this proposal is no cash is being requested. The seller is proposing to cover brokerage fees, application costs, provide the required due diligence items like the appraisal, soils, and environmental studies, and cover up to $20,000 of closing costs associated with the program. I've used a similar structure to that in the past that has resulted in the applicants not having to put any cash at all into these kinds of acquisitions. Similarly, the seller is committed to providing an approximately 7-month purchase option. The program can take a little bit of time to navigate, so it's important to have a collaborative seller who understands that and is willing to be patient and give the time needed to go through the application, award, and eventually the closing process. And the role I'm proposing to play is as a consultant and buyer's broker, so working with the seller to get the required PSA, and then helping provide all of the application materials to CHFA for land banking, and ultimately staying involved all the way through award, due diligence, and closing. So providing some additional manpower to help with those items. Here's just a quick highlight of the site in question. The lots proposed here are the full block 88, and then some additional block lots on block 87. And why this project? It really satisfies a lot of the program guidelines and the strategic criteria. So one of the things they look for is relative density and mixed use and mixed income potential. And this site has that. It's my understanding that allowed forms includes, lower density duplex product all the way up to potentially an apartment component. And having that flexibility is key. They do not require you to commit to building anything in particular. The land banking documents are very flexible and they allow you to do community engagement or refine your design plan. And ultimately, so long as you're delivering affordability within those AMIs described earlier, you're free to increase the density, decrease the density, and make significant design revisions. But having that flexibility is something they like. They also like shovel readiness, which is a term that I think is used a little liberally, where a developer might interpret it that could start construction, shortly. What Chaffer really means by that is there's nothing structural standing in the way of the project proceeding. Things like utilities being available, annexation not being required, rezone not being required. This project tracks some of those things. And I think Silverton's commitment to the Prop 123 fast track approval process also is very helpful in evidencing shovel readiness. City center proximity is something that they like so that they're not funding projects that are far away from, employment, amenities, those kinds of things. The site is obviously very proximate. Cooperative ownership, a seller that understands how the process works is really helpful in navigating any delays that Chaffa, might have throughout the process. And then finally, due diligence already in hand. Things like paying for an appraisal, environmental studies, remediation, those kinds of things that are done and ready and can support an application, which helps facilitate it at no cost, which I think really makes it a good no risk proposition to at least try to secure this kind of funding. Here's a quick overview, and I'm getting close to the end of the presentation here, but of the process. So Chaffa has bifurcated it into 2 steps up front, which is a letter of intent and a full application. The reason they've done so is that the program is typically oversubscribed and it is competitive. So previously they were requiring full applications, which meant people were spending money on appraisals and environmental studies and then ultimately not being selected for funding. As a result, they have split it into 2 steps, which is a letter of intent first. And if Chaffa likes your project, they will invite it to a full application. At that step, essentially the program is much less competitive and you can be more certain that you will be awarded funding, at which point they ask you to provide the appraisal and the environmental. This project is in a position where it could skip directly to a full application, which would help facilitate a faster timeline and also position it competitively. So step 3 here is Chaffa considers the applications and makes funding awards. Generally, there's not much to do between step 2 and 3. Chaffa's in receipt of all the materials. They're working with OEDIT and potentially the Gov's office to figure out which projects they want to fund. And then they ultimately make awards to the land banking applications they see fit. Afterwards, it transitions to due diligence and underwriting. This is mostly Chaffa making sure there's no significant environmental issues, that the third-party appraisal is satisfactory, and then ultimately, when they are done with their due diligence, you proceed towards closing and Chaffa funds 100% of the purchase price. It's important to note that a deed restriction gets in place at that point where Chaffa is given the funds to buy the land is purchased, and a deed restriction is recorded that mandates that that land can only be developed as workforce or affordable housing. And then finally, the land is owned outright and it is ready to move through the pre-development financing and development process and eventually be developed as affordable housing. I put some dates on here as high-level guidance on what I think the timing of the process will be. What I will say is when Chaffa does these rolling applications, there are not any firm deadlines that they are beholden to. This is just guidance from past rounds and experience. So we'll have more clarity on the timeline, hopefully by end of day Friday. So that's as concise of a introduction to the program as I can provide. I've also authored a white paper that goes into much more detail about the program and how it works, as well as provided redacted loan documents from past transactions, and an example PSA that kind of speaks to some of the favorable and flexible contract terms that would accompany it. But I'm happy to answer any questions about this program, how other areas have leveraged it, or anything else that might come to mind.
Thank you, sir. We have any questions?
A question. Okay, so I know it sounds like the minimum number of years this can be restricted is 30. Does that mean we could align it with our housing authority standards? So we have 99 years, right? For ours?
Yeah, Chaffa is happy to provide more affordability than the 30 years. That's strictly a minimum.
Okay. And then because we've met some Prop 123 funding before, do you think that's like an indication that we're more likely or less likely to be selected?
Yeah, great question. It's my understanding that the Prop 123 funding that was secured before was from DOLA and the AHOP grants, which is distinctly different than Chaffa's programs. There is a geographic diversity mandate in the Prop 123 programs, but they are kind of within their silos of funding. So it doesn't, getting AHOP and affordable homeownership grants does not jeopardize your ability to get land banking. In fact, it's helpful. I think it's great that you have the track record of leveraging Prop 123 and actually getting transactions closed. There's been a lot of deals that have been awarded Prop 123 funding and then ultimately have not been able to deliver and get those projects started. So I think you're actually positioned competitively.
Perfect. Anybody else?
Tanner, can you just talk a little bit about why this application cycle is a really good opportunity for our application? You mentioned like it's been oversubscribed before, but yeah, I think you did a good job earlier explaining why it makes sense for us to go after this round in particular.
Yeah, generally, sorry for the proposed rush on this application, but I guess the point is that I believe it really is justified. The statewide round is very competitive. It's been as much as 6 times oversubscribed in the past. And that's really a function of the fact that it is a really great way to purchase land and then turn it into affordable housing. And it's developers' at least favorite way to start a project is to get land banking, remove the land costs, and create that strategic alignment. And generally, they do statewide rounds, and you're competing with everything in Denver, everything in Colorado Springs, everything in Fort Collins and Boulder. And those organizations have large housing departments and a big pipeline, right? So they are preparing for land banking applications well in advance, sometimes submitting for multiple parcels, and it's hard to get funding. However, the rural resort round is much less competitive. It eliminates, per capita 80% of the applications, and it's much easier to get funding. The reason they do the rural resort rounds is because they have a geographic diversity mandate, and they want to make sure these funds are being spread across the state. Ultimately, everybody who pays income taxes in Colorado pays into the program, and they want to make sure communities have an opportunity to leverage it. So this will be a rural resort round this Q4. Not only that, it is going to be the round that has been rolled out with the shortest public notice. Some of that is because there was legislative changes earlier this year, so they're a bit behind in publishing their funding plan. Typically, folks have a 5 or 6 month lead time before these applications are due. Like that's how early they are announced. This is really unique in that I believe they'll make the public announcement by the end of this week, and applications could be open as soon as the end of September. Maybe October. So we're talking about a 1 to 2 month lead time process. So those factors combined, I think, make it a really unique opportunity to go after some of this funding and have a much more likelihood of being successful.
Super. We really have to get in gear. Well, Tanner, thank you so much. You and the Trellis Housing Partners, thank you so much for the presentation. We have a lot to mull over and get this in by September, October.
Of course. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for the opportunity to present on it.
You guys don't have any other questions?
Sorry,
Do you guys have any other
I
questions?
didn't think there was any other questions.
Not at this point.
Great. Do we have direction to continue pursuing this and presenting? Like our next steps, Tanner, would be drafting the letter of intent. And do we need anything else?
Yeah, so the application requires entering into a purchase and sale agreement to establish site control and then submitting a letter of intent to Chaffa. So those would be the next two steps.
So we would be going under contract, so we'd be presenting that contract at the next meeting.
They said that the owner of the property would pay up to $20,000 closing costs. Do we have any idea what the closing costs will be? What will be out of pocket for the town?
They'll be much less than that. Chaffa has no closing costs associated with their program or origination. There's probably a few $1,000s of title related expenses. And then really the increment is to cover whatever legal costs or other things there might be outside of the transaction. I've closed a handful of these and I have not seen the costs greater than 20,000 in any case.
Probably like to get a specific cost, but
Sorry.
a specific cost on what it would cost us? Fees?
Yeah, I believe $0 out of pocket. I just had a settlement statement in the closing here that had, I actually closed one of these today in Pueblo with Archway, and I think closing costs were $4,800, and then they had $7,500 of their own legal costs. So they fell well under that $20,000 credit.
Okay, thank you.
Dave jumped on.
Great. Oh. Is he there? Doc, you have anything to add?
No, I just actually stopped in at the last second there. Sorry, I was out on a patient call.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
I'll have to catch up. Yeah.
Perfect.
I think it's great to submit a letter of intent to explore an option. I mean, it's like putting, what is 1,000 seeds bloom or whatever, like try to see, what's the saying? You know, the expression.
Seed the land and the flowers will grow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Like kind of just put what we can out there, especially since it's not, there's no cost to it for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
my second.
Okay. Moving on.
Thanks, Tanner.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 7, resolution 2026-02, authorizing and removing signatories from Anvil Townhouses LLC with accounts. Page 123 in your packet.
Like that.
It's straightforward. I'm leaving, so Debbie's got to sign.
Oh,
Have access to
It's just bank account.
bank accounts.
yeah. Oh, the only thing I noticed, I'm so sorry, I meant to say this in the edits, is the last whereas is missing an E.
Oh.
I don't feel like it really matters, but I feel like that one probably is particularly important.
Yes, we can fix it before we
Catch.
Do you need a motion?
Wait, do we skip the fence thing or
We'll circle right back.
we're doing that now? Okay, okay.
I don't even see that on here.
housing authority packet. Make it on this one.
Well, I'll make a motion for a resolution 2026-02, resolution for the Silverton Housing Authority for the town of Silverton, authorizing and removing signatories for Anvil Townhomes LLC accounts at First Bank Southwest.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
All right, yes.
Trustee Robertson,
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield,
Yes.
Mr. Burton Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Harper.
Yes. Moving on to fences.
Fence. Okay, so Silverton Housing Authority is the member manager of Anvil Townhomes LLC. Anvil Townhomes LLC is the declarant for Anvil Townhomes HOA. And so we have a right to amend that HOA declaration for 99 years. We've had homeowners express interest in building fences. Previously, the declaration prohibited fences. We've checked with electric, fiber internet, that there's not any conflict with building fences, and they confirmed that there's not. So this will be a motion to approve the First Amendment to Declaration of Anvil Townhomes.
Any questions?
Question.
Comments?
The question, so this would, we would still meet, Silverton's, new standard where they have to go through like an approval to build the fence, right?
Yeah, it says that owners can only build fences if they get approval from the HOA in the town of Silverton. So that covers all town processes and code.
Why was the HOA originally prohibiting fences?
That was an assumption that I made based on our access agreement that we have with Bureau. That says like you cannot interfere with access, interfere or prevent access. And so in my mind, a fence interferes with access. So that was just an assumption. And then I asked once prompted from the owners, and the Bureau was fine. So.
Anyone else? Perfect. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the Declaration of Anvil Townhomes?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Huber,
Yes.
Trustee Brush,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Robertson,
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield,
Yes.
Burton Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Harper.
Yes. Perfect. Is there anything else that
Nope.
we're good?
That
Great. Then we'll reopen public comment. And then in the audience, we'll close public comment here and we'll go online. Anyone have their hands up?
clarify, this is public comment.
No.
for Housing.
This is what?
Housing Authority, public
Oh,
comment.
okay. Well, we're all in the housing authority right now until,
No, but I don't know if people online know that, so I added that.
all right. Anyone else? No, closing public comment. We will close the Silverton Housing Authority and we'll be back in 7 minutes.
What units?
It's
Like a.
Where's the screen?
Here.
Oh, I like that. Can you put it?
85 degrees in Durango, you guys are
Oh, Dave.
Yeah, it's.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone, and welcome to part two of the Silverton Board of Trustees. This is the regular meeting portion. For all of you who would like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please do so now. Of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty. It is 5:48 PM, August 24th, and I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Present.
Here.
Trustee Brown,
Here.
trustee Halverson,
Here.
Springfield,
Here,
Schiffern,
Here.
and Harper.
Here. Moving on, do we have any staff or board revisions this evening?
I have a revision to the agenda. On behalf of the board and staff, I'd like to present Ann Chase, our housing director, with a declaration of excellence, recognizing her years of hard work and commitment to this community, establishing the Silverton Housing Authority and Silverton's Affordable Housing Framework, securing grant funds to support the sustainability of the Silverton Housing Authority, the developments of 9 units of affordable housing. And just getting those units over the pass was an accomplishment in itself, and all the work that none of us saw go into that. Her work making Silverton the first jurisdiction in the state to meet its Proposition 123 commitment. And leaves this town with strengthened local, regional, state, public and private partners, a strong affordable housing framework, and a clear roadmap for new opportunities. So thank you, Ann. Ann leaves us to continue her education at Denver University and continue her work in affordable housing development. So if everyone will join me in a big thank you and a big congratulations and a big good luck on your journey. Applause to Ann and her next steps.
That's to the consent agenda.
Sorry, I forgot to. Too excited.
Thank you to everybody and thank you to this community. It's been an honor to serve in this position and yeah, this means so much. I'm so sad to go. I'm so happy to go. And I thank you all for your commitment to affordable housing and addressing our affordable housing and continuing the hard work. Thank you. This means so much.
All right.
We'll be right here when you come back.
I'm not really leaving, but
Staff or board revisions or awards? Donations we'd like to hand out? They'll say, this was your baby from day one. And our whole town has benefited from the fruits of your labor. So thank you.
Yeah.
You left Silverton better than you found it.
I'm not.
And you come back. Perfect. Okay. We will open up for public comment. Any in-house or public comment? Terrific. Here later on. All right, moving online. Don't see any hands up. We're going to close public comment and move on. Perfect. Moving to the consent agenda. Any highlights from the consent agenda this evening?
I would just note that annual townhomes retainage went out in this cycle, so it's pretty robust. Accounts payable this go around.
Last payout.
Yeah. And then I included the updated evacuation plan and zones for San Juan County. These were approved at the August 12th BOCC meeting. And so now this all falls under the county emergency operations plan.
Questions, comments, anyone? Being none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 Robertson?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Schifter?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes. Number 5, staff reports. Any highlights from our staff reports?
Yeah, so my staff report, I'll just quickly highlight, we're set September 21st for a work session to review the Colorado Tourism Office's data on Silverton visitors. And that'll be with Deanne Gallegos. I also did want to update, correct the memo I have in there regarding our facilities, parks and recreation director position. So as you know, sadly, Steve is going to be departing the town and had moved ahead with planning to advertise that position starting today. But after doing a little bit more digging into the history of the position and how it used to be, FPR used to be housed under Public Works, I have been exploring that a bit more, with John and Steve, and we are discussing some reorganization, which we feel would be a great step forward for all the programs, also a cost savings. So we'll have more information for you soon about those proposed plans, but just know we're not currently advertising the director position.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, sorry, I actually meant to ask a question. John, it sounds like some people have been reaching out about water restrictions and lifting those. I know you pulled some information for our Friday report. Can you kind of just, for the public, give an overview of where we're at with water?
More rain would be nice.
Yeah.
I'm really, with our flows, especially looking at Boulder, we're not out of the woods. Typical flows for this time of year. If we had a little bit more rain, more consistent, I would love to be able to lift them, but I'm being very cautious right now with what we're pulling and some of the forecasted stuff. It's a great question. I would love to be able to do those, but I'm being very cautious at this point with some of our flows.
Yeah, and we'll get, we're gonna, in the works, getting some information on our social media, just letting people know restrictions are still in place and why they're still in place.
And it was in the newsletter, wasn't it?
Yes.
Good question. Perfect. Moving on to number 6, presentations. We have a Brownsfield project update. Mr. Kit Carson, come and join us. Provide us with this update.
Okay.
Done this once or twice before.
Nice.
I think
There you go.
perfect.
Singing the national anthem.
Yeah, little as well. But then I need to share my screen. I don't see that option.
Should be at the bottom.
Did you promote him to?
Yeah, the big green button.
Got it? Okay.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys for having me. Ended up just being in town. I had a camping trip out in Telluride, so ended up working out perfect. This is a August 2026 update. What I'm gonna first do is kind of talk about the project in general, what we've done so far, where we're at, where we're going. So this was awarded a few years ago, remains active. This US EPA multipurpose brownfields grant until September 30th, 2028. As part of this project, there were 5 sites that were identified. I'll list those off real quick. The Boxcar site, Lackawanna Mill, Animas River Corridor, Zanoni property, and the Cement Creek site. The Zanoni property, unfortunately, isn't eligible for brownfields funds as it, I think their environmental site assessments happened after property acquisition or before, forget, after. And then Animas River Corridor, there's, I mean, Lucy, you could probably explain that better than I can.
Yeah, the Animas River Corridor remains under ownership by the BLM. It's under our RMPP lease, and you cannot use EPA brownfields on federal land. And because it's still federal land, it's not eligible right now.
Yep. So there's 3 sites that are still eligible, and additional sites can be eligible as well as they're identified. But we're trying to be creative with our funds and to stretch our dollar and make sure it goes as far as possible for the town. 2 sites that were prioritized immediately were the Lackawanna Mill and the Boxcar Apartments. We did environmental site assessments, phase 1, our due diligence, and as well as phase 2, where we went out with an excavator and took some soil samples. Both those have been presented on in the past, where we identified some metal impacts at both sites. As a result, we were given approval to proceed with at the Lackawanna Mill specifically for improvement in repair cost estimating. The mill itself has some structural issues. It's in fairly good condition, but there are some structural issues that need to be addressed. Some earthwork on the sort of where it slopes off into the Animas River. And so we're looking at different options. We've gotten we've started that process, but we need some more creative ideas in order to kind of stretch that dollar as far as we can. So that remains ongoing. Boxcar Apartments, we were given the green light to look at a remedial action plan. And I'll give a little overview of that site, as that's going to be one of the focuses of this presentation and this update today. So that's where we've gone and where are we going. So with Boxcar, as part of that remedial action plan, we've kind of done some twists and turns on exactly how we can go about remediating that property, but we need some, there'll be some civil and engineering designs and some potential drone and LiDAR to be able to kind of flesh out, mostly dealing with the drainage grading of the site as we kind of integrate it in with the larger Anvil Mountain and Mineral Creek neighborhoods. There's also, you guys have a large dirt pile. In order to be able to use that potentially on brownfield sites, we need to characterize that. Brownfields could also relocate that pile as well. So we'll be implementing some of that this year and as well as next year as the soil gets screened. And again, we'll kind of talk about the Cement Creek site later on at the very end of the presentation, about what we can do there. But despite some challenges with the Animas River Corridor, there is planning level support that we can do. Drone and LiDAR is something that can be covered under brownfields support, as well as GIS. We can create an online dashboard that makes things, I've used it on a number of projects, and it's a very seamless thing. We can share it with the rest of the town as we go through our planning stages for that project and as that project moves forward into the future. So we can kind of lay down some of the groundwork as part of this. And again, all project updates are going to continue to be posted on that ArcGIS story maps. So those are high level where we've gone, where we're at, and where we're going. We need to talk a little bit more about the Boxcar Apartment site and how that kind of gets integrated into the Zanoni project and the Zanoni property. So looking at the previous work that we've done, the phase 1, we know that it is in the general area of the historic Rosenwall smelter operations. The Anvil Mountain neighborhood is kind of sprung from that effort. You guys can see over here that large berm where most of the impacted soils were emplaced along this berm and then capped with clean fill. And that was the remedial strategy tied to that. cleanup that happened back in 07, 08. So our site is adjacent to that historic smelter. And we believe that based off the phase 2 results, they were primarily in the uppermost foot where we saw lead and arsenic a little bit elevated. And so we think that that's mostly tied, again, to that aerial deposition from that smelter operations. We saw some hits a little bit deeper than a foot, but they were a little more sporadic. And you did see a nice little drop off there. So kind of looking at all the different steps, different steps we'll need to do as well as land conveyance, lock and consolidation, and the avalanche study that was completed here recently that allowed this project to continue to move forward to the analysis of brownfields cleanup and the remedial action plan. So that's a APCO-RAP. It's another one of those fun acronyms that the environmental world has. And that's really to come up with costs, different options and costs tied to those. And then the way we've kind of talked about this internally is that we would then write our remedial action plan for the selected or the most feasible option. So now we need to know it's always nice to step back and look at what the town and the different conversations that have happened, where the site ultimately wants to go. And this is SGM. You guys have worked with them to look at Grand Junction. We've been coordinating with them on this effort and trying to integrate our remedial strategy with the redevelopment. So we need to understand what's going on with redevelopment. And ultimately I know there's been several options, ideas that have been considered. The one that's being shown right here is 2 different apartment complexes with a parking lot in front. And behind it is a soil nail wall. So the site sits on a nice slope. In order to have developable land, excavation needs to occur. A soil nail wall, and we'll kind of zoom in on this as well, is a top-down excavation. You start from the bottom or from the top, you excavate, and we've been working with SGM on exactly how they would implement this at this particular site, but they would excavate down 3 feet exposed where they're going to do their soil nail wall installation. They'll do drainage, they'll do shotcrete, they'll do the first stage, and then they'll go down another 3 feet and continue that into the total depth for that particular wall. At the very bottom, you kind of see the cross section, and that is of the soil nail wall. So it kind of pinches along the end. So not a very tall wall, but then of course in the middle, you have up to, you can see here 93.25. It's kind of small, 93.15. So up to a 10-foot wall in this area. And when they do a cut fill analysis, how much material needs to be removed before brought on, there's about 2,600 cubic yards of material that needs to be removed in order to develop that site. Typical loader is about 10 cubic yards, so that's about 260 trucks. And if there's not a location in town to place that, it needs to go offsite. And one of the most viable options is Bondhead landfill down in Durango. So that's a lot of trucks, a lot of time, and it increases the cost of the overall project for redevelopment. So how can remediation help us with redevelopment? So we know that the uppermost foot is contaminated, and that needs to go somewhere. We could go down to Bondhead, or we can find another site here locally in town to emplace that. So before we do anything, we got to grub and remove the trees from the site. And our estimates right now are around 485 cubic yards of impacted soils. Again, there could be some higher, so we're kind of giving it a range up to 600 cubic yards. All that will be guided by infield soil testing as well, but it'll ultimately be relied on by analytical testing. So where could that stuff go? It could go to the Zanoni property. That is not eligible for brownfields funds, but because this is tied to the remedial strategy of boxcar apartments, it becomes an eligible site for this location. So to place this impacted materials, which keeps it nice and close within the same neighborhood. We can place the impacted soils and extend that existing berm that's on the Zanoni property, and I'm going to show you a figure in a second what this looks like. We can over excavate and do some additional clean soils from the boxcar site and transport that also to the Zanoni property, further reducing the amount of material we need to remove from the site during redevelopment. We can improve grading and drainage within that area and make sure that it's integrated into the larger Mount Anvil and potentially to the Mineral Creek homes that are just adjacent to it. And we can seed and vegetate that repository that berm similar to what's already been done to make sure that that clean soil stays in place. So this is some of our conceptual designs, civil designs. The existing berm, you can see it's to the left, and we are proposing to extend. I think the berm has been called a burrito. This would be a little taquito. So it's really small, like adds onto it. There's a number of advantages to doing this, and I'll talk about that in a second. But there's also been some standing water issues behind some of these new lots. We can improve drainage and create a swell, open swell, armor vegetated swell, fairly easy to construct and implement. And we had initially talked about creating a separate drainage basin for this drainage issue here, as well as around the repository. But there is at the Mineral Creek homes an existing drainage basin. So we can potentially tack on our swale onto that existing drainage basin and integrate it into the Mineral Creek homes. So there's some integration going on right now in terms of stormwater management within these two neighborhoods. Right now, there is some discussions right here. There is an existing detention basin over here where the front part of the site would drain to. But there is potential talking about integrating that also within the Mineral Creek home. So further information is needed there, which again, given the fact that I was here maybe a year or so ago, and I feel that the Anvil Mountain neighborhood is changing daily. So seeing the updates and getting some updated aerial imagery and elevations could really help with integrating these designs. So I want to move on from Boxcar and onto Zanoni. And Zanoni, we've talked about, is really dealing with the back half of the property. What do we do with the front half? Given previous site assessments that were done, we know that we have impacted soils at the surface down to 8+ feet. So excavating the entire property doesn't seem really a wise use of resources, funds, not really a feasible strategy. So one thing that we could do is take clean soils and cap the entire site with 1 foot, similar to what we're doing with the repository. You just extend that same strategy to the rest of the site. So there's some benefits to integrating our strategies here. Again, you create a noise barrier along US 550, create additional green space within the neighborhood. You can improve drainage, which is really important. And again, this gives it a blank canvas for future redevelopment. Again, we're trying to minimize our footprint for the taquito so that we have the most open footprint as possible. And when they do foundation excavations for any future building footprint, typically go down 1 foot, remove that, and put in their own structural fill. And so if they're excavating clean soils, they could potentially use it elsewhere rather than having to truck it down to Bondad landfill and as impacted soils. So there are some challenges with this integration, and some of them have already been discussed. We need up to 2,600 cubic yards of soil removed for redevelopment. And we'll remove less than 1,000 right now based off this plan. So that leaves there's a net 1,600 cubic yards that still need to be removed before development can be sort of completed and the ground ready to build at Boxcar. Big challenge there is that because the soil no wall installation and slope stability that needs to be thought of, we cannot continue with the rest of that soil removal excavation until redevelopment funding has been secured. We need to be able to do that at this time. And then for the Zanoni property, given the fact that to cap the rest of the site, again, the site is ineligible for brownfields funds. You're going to need to find a new funding source to be able to implement that work. Benefit is that it's not a significant amount of work. So the cost of that would not be significant. So our proposed path forward, It's the box carts as described. Grub, remove the impacted soils, over excavate to build the extension, repository extension. And really the site will be prepared as to the extent possible. Given discussions with John, Debbie, Lucy, and I had in the field, we'll have to consider soil erosion sediment control measures as that site sits there for a little bit without any vegetation on there. There's a chance we could put some grass seed on there to help vegetate, but that's something we're looking into, is just what to do with the site as it sits fallow until funding is secured for that project to move forward. And now for Zanoni, we need about 1,200 yards of soil to be able to put that 1 foot of cap on that front portion of the property. And so we need to find a source for that soil. Clean source needs to meet residential standards for that property, given that it's going to be ideally for residential use. So Boxcar Apartments site could be that source of soil. However, again, fundings need to be secured. The other is, you guys have a large dirt pile in town. And if it tests and it's good for residential use, that could be a great option for you guys to be able to place the cap on top. And we can do the relocation cost of that under brownfields, but the actual placement onto the property itself would need another funding source. CDPHE has grants, and we've talked with with Mark Rudolph about different options about what that would look like. So there are avenues for that as well. So that, I don't know if we want to Q&A here before moving on to Cement Creek, or if you want me to run through, because I know that's a lot of information.
Do you guys want to ask
You guys have anything?
Q&A before we go to the next site? So we do have funding for the Taquito.
We do.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Sorry, I got lost in the burritos.
Keto
Yeah,
goes with the Boxcar site.
okay.
Sorry, can I just ask real quick? Just sort of stepping way back, what's the, around the boxcar apartment site, what's the end point when it's all said and done that we will have available there for that land?
That is, how many units? What did you ask? What's the end goal for the Boxcar site? I'll let you.
We're envisioning 2 apartment buildings. Either 12 or 14 units. Let me look and I'll report back later.
No worries. Okay, so it's building additional housing.
Yeah,
Preparing
yes.
for building. Okay,
Yes.
just want to be clear.
It seems to me it's taken a tremendous amount of money just to make this buildable.
The Boxcar site in particular. And I think part of that is the location itself. It's just, it's right on a slope. Uneven terrain right back through there. I know in the past, the neighborhood has had to deal with a ferrocrete layer, a very hard layer. I'm sure you're all aware of, but that may be encountered as part of redevelopment, but not necessarily remediation. So remediation costs within all of this, we're hoping to, finalize those costs here this year and be able to provide that. But it wouldn't be the most expensive part of this project.
Great. Anyone else?
Well, we have to spend the money anyway, right? We have to spend the money by,
September 2028.
so we really only have one more summer where we lose the money.
Right.
Okay.
Right, yep.
Two summers potentially, but you wouldn't get the full year. Yeah, because it's, I think it's September 30th. So we would be rushing, we could still do it early in the year in 2028.
It's actually, is that like a work done date or is that just funds committed?
The end of the grant period.
Yeah,
Yes.
We just spend all the money.
it has to be spent.
Spent
But I think
and money drawn down from its source. Yeah.
And I know one last thing on the grants is that, there's a chance the town may want to pursue another type of grant like this. we need to make sure that we have spent the funds, or else we may not be able to the town may not be able to get access to a fund like this again.
Oh.
So it's very important that we find projects and continue to move the needle as much as possible.
I mean,
Is
at
there-
the end of the day, it's remediation of a neighborhood, right? So whatever
Cleaning
you
up the
do with
waste
it,
is
it's
a lot of
good.
fun.
Yeah, totally.
Can I ask, is there any chance that this could get delayed beyond the point of when the funds are already drawn down and the town is now stuck with additional work that needs to be done without funds available?
Sorry, I didn't really understand your question.
Is there a chance that this might not get completed with the funds that are available, or it gets extended beyond what is planned, and the town then has an unfinished project without funds, being available after the 2020 deadline?
No, we would work to complete all of the work before the 2028 deadline. And that's part of the reason why we're here today, to kind of get some direction on planning so we can make sure that we get all the work done before our deadline.
Okay.
We've, at least with Boxcar and Zanoni, we've have reached out to US EPA and CDPHE, discussed this plan on a high level, and have been given a green light to continue. So these are, we've gone as far as we can. Now we're looking to sort of get the final steps tied to this project, get all the final pieces together to implement Boxcar and Zanoni. So, and again, this also supports additional grant applications as well, tied to Zanoni, the cap across the property, because that can be done at any time. Again, that funding source could be secured later. Doesn't have to be with this, because that's kind of carved out from this brownfields grant.
And we expect the amount we have to spend down by September 2028 to cover all of these recommendations here.
That's correct. Yep. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but there may need to be additional work that the town would need to pursue in order to actually spend down the remainder of it. So we're not trying to limit ourselves just to Boxcar and Zanoni. At the very beginning, sorry for going fast, but the one that we'll talk about here will transition to Cement Creek. There's also Animas River Corridor, the planning support there. There's a good chunk of change that can be pushed in that direction as well. I've provided a high level cost summary, projected cost summary to Lucy on all these things, all these projects. So we have a strategy on how we can spend this money down.
And the Animas River Corridor could be a potential once we own it. Is that correct?
And the benefit to what we're proposing, this is all planning level support.
Yeah.
Drone work, LiDAR, all that can be done before acquisition.
Okay.
Yep. And we've gotten that. We've talked to the US EPA as well, and they've greenlit that as well.
Awesome.
It's a little bit of a balancing game we're playing with projects and budgets and things of that nature. Cool. All right, great. All right. And then just want to quickly touch on the third site that was eligible. Talked about at the beginning was the Cement Creek priority site. This was identified in the grants application to US EPA. This is up as a Highway 110. Again, one of the gateways into the town. It's very easily seen from Google Earth. You can see a lot of this black slag material that exists on sort of this bluff that's quite stunning, overlooks the town, and as well as kind of up the Cement Creek corridor. There are some adjacent mill sites. Just doing a little cursory search, quite large ones adjacent to the site. I believe that this may have been a dumping ground for some of the slag material that they have there. There's some other mining infrastructure that's still in place there. And this could be, it's a challenging site, definitely a challenging site given the uneven terrain. But there are different, Lucy and I went and walked the site today, and there's some different ideas that, and this may be something that is further opened up to the town as a vision board of what to kind of do with this property. For one, there could be an integration with the mountain biking trails. As there's sort of like unofficial paths that are kind of walked through here already. People are walking their dogs. I saw bike trails already through this. So people are already interacting with this slag material and this media and the site. And this may be an opportunity for us to do some assessment work. So understanding the site history, being able to quantify the amount of slag material that's present there. And then we can kind of come up with high level remediation costs as we integrate and listen to you guys on different ideas on how to integrate this site into the town, what ideas maybe you guys want to use for it. So. I don't know if you have anything to add, but that's.
Yeah.
This is yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
How do we find the like story map again that you're talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Our story map, you go to the town's website
On there.
and you scroll all the way down to community announcements. It was that, oh, community information, Silverton's visions for brownfield sites. Cool.
Anyone have any other questions, comments? No. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And
The update.
we're looking for direction to move forward with the plan that was just presented. So
Do we need like now? Yes.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if it was
we don't need like a motion or anything.
Yeah.
I think we should move forward.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Love a little taquito over there. Taquito.
Really the selling point, you know, good name, it's all put together.
It really does block out the noise, so.
Yeah, it does a great job.
I'm assuming that this, and I know that you're just starting to assess this Cement Creek site, but would you be able to potentially, you have to have a place to put all of this material as well, theoretically, right?
Theoretically.
Do we continue extending that berm or how does that work?
Couldn't extend the berm, unfortunately, because the rest of the development, the Mineral Creek Homes development is there.
Right there.
And we're gonna butt up against that.
Gotcha.
But we could enlarge that to Quito. That's certainly an option if we wanted to keep it in town. Given the ultimate design or the ideas of how to use the site, we could also potentially limit the amount of material that's taken off-site, try to place caps on-site. You have the dirt pile in town, or we could do, if there's minimal parking or a drive-through through that area, asphalt can serve as a cap. That can, again, environmental, it's exposure pathways. So if you have all this material and they can no longer access it, there's no way that for them to ingest it, dermal contact, inhalation, then the exposure pathway is eliminated. It's essentially what the berm is doing. It's removing all of those potential exposure pathways for metal impacted soil. So we could do something, we could integrate redevelopment design with the remedial strategy. But again, we need to understand the problem before we can really, and then ultimately what the vision is for the site before we can kind of connect the dots on those two.
Cool.
What else? All right, I think the direction is don't stop shoveling.
Right. Keep it up.
Appreciate everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. Anyone else, would any of your colleagues like to say anything, or do they have anything to add?
David is still on, so David and I have been obviously.
No, nothing to add. Kit did a great job presenting that information. So no, nothing to add on my end.
Or anyone think we forgot about you?
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Wish I could be there.
Next time.
Yep.
Great. Moving on. Business items, 7A, proposition 123, commitment. Damn, kicking this too.
Okay, we completed our first cycle, commitment cycle for proposition 123. And this commitment cycles are in 3-year segments. So last one was 2023 to 2026. And we passed with flying colors. Since the last time we did this opt-in process, well, let me back up. In order to access these funds that are held at the state level, jurisdiction has to opt in or commit to Proposition 123 for each cycle. So if we wanted to access any gap funding from Division of Housing or apply for the local planning capacity grant, we have to recommit. There was pretty changes to how this process works through the most recent legislative cycle. And in my opinion, they're all very good changes. So the methodology changed on how you calculate how many homes you need to build or acquire and dedicate to affordable housing would be a better way to say that. And it's based on the average number of annual residential new construction building permits over the past 3 years, multiplied by our county's job growth factor rate, and then multiply that by 3. So in Silverton, we had an average of 9 average building permits per year over the past 3 years. According to the state demographer, our job growth rate is 20%. Feels not very true. But we're looking at 5, the state.
The demographer.
We have 5 units that we need to build or otherwise create by the end of 2029. Last cycle was 10. So this feels appropriate to our goals and our size. And this is a binding commitment. So if we don't hit this goal in 2029, we'll have to skip a year. We'll have to skip 2030 for being eligible for Prop 123 funds. And then we can recommit. So affordable housing is defined for this purpose at or below 60% AMI for rental. And a new increase, this is awesome in my opinion, is it's gone up to 120% AMI. So we have a bigger pool of eligible buyers that we can serve in our for sale housing type.
Nice.
And they have a new incentive structure. So like, if you have land donated to the project, you get 1.1 units for every 1 unit that you build. So it helps you get up to more units depending on the different incentives that you do. So property tax exemptions. So if we partner with a developer on a special limited partnership and offer that property tax or sales tax exemption, any units that come out of that project would count as 1.15 units. So it adds up. That's exciting. Budget impact is if we don't opt in, we are not eligible for any future Prop 123 until we opt in again.
2030 is the next cycle that we could, or is it, can we like opt in any?
That is a good question. This last time they did it annually because I think it was a new program, but I don't know the answer if we could like sit out this year or not. But we're applying for the local planning capacity grant for the housing director position this year for the next 2 years. So I think it just makes sense to opt in, and then we'll need a motion.
That is on page 241. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I moved to opt into the 2027 to 2029 Proposition 123 commitment cycle by committing to increasing our affordable supply by 5 Proposition 123 qualified units by the end of 2029.
Second.
All right, Trustee Huebner.
Yes.
Mr. Brush.
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Wakefield?
Yes.
And Pro Tem Schicker?
Yes.
And Harper?
Yes. Passes, thank you. All right. 7B, accessory dwelling units, RFPs, consultant selection.
Great.
Back to you.
I'm gonna give a quick background overview and then Debbie's gonna sort of walk us through the proposals. So little history, we were awarded the ADU grant from DOLA. This pot of money has three incentives and deliverables that we're working on. The first is pre-approved ADU plans and construction documents. The second is an ADU feasibility study, and that study will assess parcels based on existing structures, zoning constraints, to figure out what the best size ADU will be for pre-approved plans. And then eventually the town is going to create an incentive policy where we have around $4,000 to give to a property owner to either offset tap fees, plan investment fees, or it could go to like construction costs. But we're trying to come at it from all angles of like giving folks plans at a reduced cost and then also giving them money. And it's a really exciting program. We've been working on this for a really long time. And so we released 2 RFPs and reviewing 2 RFPs today. One is for the pre-approved plans, hiring an architect for that scope. And then one is for an ADU feasibility study. And we received 1 response for that, and staff recommends awarding that contract. But I will hand it over to Debbie to give an overview of the top 2 proposals. We received 5. It was really hard to pick our top ones, but quite pleased with the quality of these proposals. And yeah, Debbie, take it away.
Like Ann said, we got a total of 5 proposals, and I think 2 fairly quickly kind of rose to the top, but we considered each one independently, and we went through all of our requirements. We had submission requirements, and so that's what we weighed all the proposals against. A couple of them did not meet all of the requirements, meaning they didn't answer all of our questions, but we were really thorough and talked to all of them. I was involved in some of that, and we still gave them a chance to answer those questions on the phone. So we feel like we've got a really good apples to apples comparison. So the 2 that kind of rose to the top were Mountain Studio and RA&A. RA&A is Reynolds, Ash and Associates. And I'll just kind of go briefly over why we like these 2 as the top, if that sounds good to you guys. And then we're honestly looking for a recommendation because we struggled with the top 2. They're both really, really good. And honestly, they're kind of neck and neck. So RA&A, we spoke with Lauren, who's one of the managing partners. What was very important to all of us was that they had experience in Silverton. So not experience in some small town, but Silverton is very unique, of course. So we talked about weather, design elements, everything being conducive to our climate up here. One of the engineers, whose name is Tracy, has worked in Silverton on about 10 to 15 different homes. Recently, they've been working on the EMS improvements, courthouse, and some other commercial projects. They recognize the Silverton climate, and so they talked a lot about added insulation, making the foundations deeper. They've also done some work for San Juan County. They're aware of avalanche zones, floodplain zones, structural engineering in the houses that they design. And they also prove to be very creative in finding solutions. They're familiar with Silverton codes and state codes. They talked a lot about accessibility and aging in place as well as affordability. And just because of some of my past career being in case management, building a home initially that allows someone to age in place is so important. So whether it has handlebars, for toilet, bathtub, things like that, or at least it's got the supports behind the drywall and the 4x4s where you can mount something like that, those are the kind of things that we talked about, making sure that, these homes will be good for people aging in place. Talked about affordability, we talked about mirrored plans. Depending on where the ADU sits, we may have 3 to 4 different designs and each one provided us with the designs. But it may sit different. Your property is going to look different than your property. So the front door may face this way on your property and it may face this way on your property. And so that was something Anne made sure she asked also was could the plans be mirrored? They were pretty open. Both of them were pretty open to iterations of plans. We don't want to go back and forth a lot, but they both seem pretty open. If we have additional questions, additional requirements, community engagement opportunities is very important to Anne, and I understand why, and I agree with that. And so they talked about how they would do in-person meetings, and they've been using surveys for community input called the Menti Meter. And it's an app that you can just get on your phone, you can do a survey, and it can go to the appropriate people. They had a workshop approach, which if anything put them over just slightly over Mountain Studio, who was our other top one, that might be it. They really believe in getting that back and coming back with a plan, and they have several workshops that are built into their proposal. So any questions on that particular proposal for our ANA or any additional questions?
I think the only thing that I'll add, and that was awesome. Debbie, the only thing that I'll add is they have extensive experience like doing civic engagement, like public engagement for City of Durango projects. And so that felt really important because we're designing this product for the end user. And so we want this to be like for and by property owners. And so I feel like, my opinion, the thing that set them apart from Mountain Studio was just that added experience and commitment to community engagement. And that's not to say that Mountain Studio did not, but that was like a highlight of their proposal.
Hey, anything else on our ANA? All right, our next top proposal was Mountain Studio. We spoke with Ash and Chris, 2 of the managing partners again. They also have experience in Silverton. We asked exactly the same questions to both of these companies. They have worked on an easy park. The cabin, it's a cabin on County Road 2. It looks like a damn house to me because it's beautiful. They've done ADUs on Green Street, and they've done some work on Rendezvous. They are also familiar with codes in Silverton as well as the climate. They understand working at a higher elevation. They understand the town versus the county codes. They're in Durango, and so they're local and coming up to visit with us to do community engagement. Pick our brains would be very easy. They're very willing to do that. Let's see. They did talk about mirroring also, and they didn't seem to have an issue with that.
Be an additional.
That would be an additional cost. Thank you. Okay. So it wasn't for the first company, but this one, it would be a slightly additional cost. I haven't gone over budget yet. Don't let me forget to do that. They both had good liability insurance, community engagement that Anne touched on. They were a touch unprepared for that question. And again, that's my only, like maybe our ANA might have eked them out a little bit on that, but they thought on their feet and they came up with some good ideas, and they understand community engagement is important to us. Talked about accessibility and aging in place as well as affordability. And affordability, of course, is important because yes, we may have the designs that we can provide to people who are willing and able to do ADUs, but we don't want it to cost them an arm and a leg. We really want to motivate the town. I want an ADU in my backyard. It's gonna help me pay for my mortgage. It's gonna provide additional housing in Silverton. And so affordability was also a big deal to them. Let's see, our budget was $72,300 that we asked them to stay below. Mountain Studio came in at $67,000. But as Ann said, there were some additional fees for travel. And RA and
They were at budget.
they were out of it, okay.
And Mountain Studio was below budget, but to add foundation, like schematic foundation design, it would bring them up to $1,000 under budget. And Reynolds and Ash included the schematic foundation design in their scope. So they're pretty comparable. Mountain Studios, we'll call it just like 1,000 or so under
How much did you say Reynolds was?
at budget, so 72,300.
But there might be some additional costs with Mountain Studios depending upon engagement and going back with other questions and travel costs and things like that, that in theory could maybe even put them above.
With both proposals, they had some travel incorporated into their budget to come up here, but and it wasn't clear exactly like how much travel was budgeted. But I honestly think budget, they're very comparable.
And they were also, they expressed several times they're eager to work with us.
Yeah.
So I can't guarantee that they won't charge us extra for one more session, to travel up here, but they were just very amenable.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of either one of those? And we are looking for a recommendation, don't need a vote necessarily.
No, you're gonna award it tonight too.
Okay.
The good news is you can't go wrong.
Yep.
The hard news is that you're gonna have to say no to a really good offer.
We know these 5 architects now. I mean, seriously, they gave us very good bids, and who knows who we might use next time. It's not closing a door on anybody.
But there, in your opinion, there was one that eked out the other.
No, honestly.
What I'm saying is our A&A might have a little bit on the community engagement part, but otherwise they're honestly neck and neck.
But I will say Mountain Studio is proposing 4 designs instead of 3.
That is true.
We're only required to do 3.
Yep.
So I should change that 1 and 2.
Sorry.
So I should change that 1 and 2. No. Anyone?
I'm just the attorney, but with the mirrors, you have 6. You're gonna do apples to apples. You have 6.
Yep, that is true.
I think more plans is better than 3. 3 is better than 4. We have people options. But also, so Reynolds and Ash is who's working down on Cascade. And they've actually done a really good job with the county and submitting everything they need for Cascade, so. Just.
What was that last comment? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I had my hand on my face. Reynolds and Ash is the architects working on the Cascade proposed development.
Okay.
And they've done a fairly good job at submitting stuff for the county.
Okay.
For that project, so they've had experience up here.
Oh, and I didn't talk about references.
Yeah.
The references were all great. Of course, you're gonna put down somebody that speaks highly of you, but they did.
Can we go over the mirroring thing again? So they're gonna adjust those 3 plans so they could go either way? Is
Exactly.
that what you're saying?
Yep.
Both of them are doing that?
Both of them.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Reynolds and Ash would do it within their scope. Mountain Studio would be an additional fee that would go above our budget.
I didn't remember that.
So then that's, like Clayton said, 6 plans instead of 4.
Math.
Fountain Studio. I approached them 2 years ago to put a proposal together so I could have some sort of budget estimate for what to ask for in grant applications. And so they have been committed to this project or interested in this project for several years now. So that adds like another layer.
Reynolds and Ash, you just
I
said,
would recommend Reynolds, but
Oh.
because I've seen their work and
what did you say?
I would recommend Reynolds only because I've seen their work. Thank God.
The mirroring is a good call.
I would as well, just because of that and some of the other things that they sound very amenable to and their the excitement and willingness to engage in the community as well. Yeah, I agree. Ron?
Perfect. Anyone else?
Yep, I agree.
Doc? Doc?
We do need a motion.
All right. Motions are on page 244. 240. One.
Motion to award
Reynolds and Ash.
Reynolds and Ash the contract for the RFP for pre-approved architectural accessory dwelling unit design plans.
Second.
Mr. Gidner?
Yes.
Rush?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Middleton?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Schicker?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, and then we have one more RFP to award. So My Town AI. Currently, Lucy, what's our relationship with My Town AI right now?
My Town AI is a small AI startup that was founded by the mayor pro tem of,
Just mayor of Netherlands.
current mayor of Netherlands.
We met at CML.
Yes, she's very cool. She's very lovely. She's very intelligent, and she created an AI platform for small communities like ours to use to help with capacity and to help with other projects. So the town has had a version of My Town AI for probably like a year or so now. And basically it has all of our town documents, really all of our publicly available information, including our land use code and our zoning maps and our GIS files. And you can use it to ask questions like, where can I build a single family home? Where can I build a duplex? Where can I open a marijuana business? Things like that. And as it's evolved, they've added more tools. And one of those tools has to do with building ADUs and identifying lots for ADUs, which is kind of how this conversation got started.
And so they're proposing using our data to make recommendations on what the most applicable like ADU sizes would be based on the current lot constraints and our zoning conditions. And I designed this RFP with her in mind, and she was our only response. And so I'm really excited about this tool. And yeah, we'll need a motion to this contract.
I'll make a motion to award My Town AI the contract for the RFP for accessory dwelling units feasibility study.
Second.
Cost on this.
Perfect.
It's included. My second. Great. Oh, sorry, Ron, did you have a question?
Already been taken care of.
Okay.
I was curious if it was gonna cost us, the town.
Part of the grant, yeah. Trustee Huber?
Yes.
Trustee Brush?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Robertson? Yes. Mr. Wakefield?
Yes.
Rich Schicker?
Yes.
Mayor Harper?
Yes. Motion pass. Thank you so much. 7C, public hearing. Clayton, I'm kicking it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As is,
Did that for you, Ben?
as the board is aware, we previously had passed this ordinance for assessment. The purpose of this is to officially notify the owners of the special improvement district of what the assessment costs will be. It seems a little redundant because they voted on it. It's in the language. But this is one of the, it's more important than a box to check, but it does give the owners the opportunity to bring any objections to the board that you then have to consider at a public hearing. We had done this before, there was no objections, and so we kind of glossed over the public hearing. It was, again, the statute that we're dealing with here, 3125-503, it can be difficult because it's not necessarily linear. And we've gone over that ad nauseum, so I won't belabor that point. But what we've done is we have met all the requirements. In subsection 4, we've sent out the notice of assessment again, and we have given the owners an opportunity to respond to that notice of assessment with any objections. What we're doing here today is determining that these improvements were duly ordered, that the notice was duly given. And after this hearing, which needs to be duly held, which we missed the last go around, that then we can then proceed on with the project, which is the special improvement district, and that you're all aware of. And we don't need to get into the details of the project. This is the assessment piece that allows the owners for you guys to say conclusively that these owners were going to go forward and they will be assessed the fees once the project is complete. And so you, I think you have a script for the hearing, and so we need to open this for public hearing. And which is different than a public meeting. It's different. Do we have the public hearing script? Or
Yeah, Jim.
Is it the last one from way long time ago?
Yeah, it should be the same.
Well, I looked that up. You can tell folks how there were no objections.
Yes, and so once we open it for public hearing, the board and the public and any owners online will find out that there were no objections. The reason that the other thing I should point out while you're looking that up, Jim, is this is a requirement if you don't have a unanimous override and vote for the owners. And there is one of the properties that's owned in trust, and those people are just non-responsive. So we didn't have the unanimous vote that we could override this notice in public hearing, but we don't have any objection either. And so I think that's important to note for the record as well. And then once you open this for public hearing, we will then recognize any public comments, and technically the owners can say something. They don't have to say anything. Really, this is their opportunity to object. And again, that didn't happen. And so it could be a fairly quick public hearing. We do need to open it for public hearing though, and make sure that we go through that process.
We have the right script. I'd like to call to order this public hearing of the Town of Silverton Board of Trustees. Purpose of this public hearing is to receive public input on the matter of Town of Silverton, Colorado Ordinance 2026-04, an emergency ordinance of the Town of Silverton, Colorado, acting ex officio as the Board of Directors of the Town of Silverton 8th and Bluff Special Improvement District, ordering publication and mailing of notice of assessment hearing to the owners of the property to be assessed for improvements in the Town of Silverton 8th and Bluff Special Improvement District. Let me take a moment to explain how this hearing will proceed. Number one, a brief presentation may be provided by town staff or the applicant to explain the proposal. Two, following that, we will open the floor for public comment. Three, anyone wishing to speak will be asked to come forward, state your name, address for the record, and is limited to 3 minutes. Four, all public comments have been heard, bless you. The board may ask questions or discuss the matter further. At this time, I would like to invite town staff, the applicant, relevant parties to present a brief overview of the matter before us.
As discussed, we're here today to recognize there has been no complaints or objections filed in writing. That's required by CRS 3125-503, paragraph 4, subsection I. That those would have had to been made in writing before this meeting. Again, all owners were properly noticed in accordance with the statute. And at this time, the board should hear from anyone wishing to make a public comment. And after considering the comments made, make a decision as to proceed with the assessment, having recognized there is no complaints or objections.
Great. Seeing no public comment. Don't see anyone raise hands. Anyone on the panel would like to speak? Do we? All right, seeing no further members of the public wishing to comment, I will now close the public comment portion of this hearing. At this time, I will open the floor to the Board of Trustees for any questions, comments, or discussion related to the issue.
And the board, we do have our bond counsel on as well, Ms. Kim Crawford. She can answer any questions, but.
If anyone has any questions, comments, discussion items, this is your time. You're so cool that no one wants to speak. All right. Well, that's the end of what I have here for my script.
So we just have to,
How would you like to proceed?
well, now we have to pass the ordinance, right?
The ordinance has been technically passed. You passed it 20 days ago or over 20 days ago. I think that's something we should put on the record during the public hearing. The ordinance was properly passed and it was certified and published, and it's been over 20 days. So that meets our requirement. There has been no complaints. There has been no objections. There's been no complaints or objections raised at this meeting. Not that it would be, if they could do it, but it's technically outside of the authority of the statute. I think at this point, the board would make a motion, something to the effect of we have recognized in public hearing that the owners of the property to be assessed, that the assessments were duly ordered and notice was duly given, and we have duly held a public hearing. And now we're going to move on to completing the project. Possibly, we can now move on to completion of the project if we still have other steps to take. I'm not going to do a full update tonight, but we still have other steps to take to complete the project. But now we can move forward with the assessments. And pending anything that Kim wants to add, I think that's really the purpose of the public hearing.
Thank you. My only addition is that on September 14th, we will present you with an actual assessment ordinance, which will be filed with the clerk and recorder and the county assessor and recorded against each of those properties. So that will give people an opportunity to prepay if they want. And they have until essentially, I think, October to prepay or November. And then if they don't prepay starting in January, you're going to start every 6 months imposing assessments.
Do you need a resolution or an ordinance?
I mean, we've already passed the ordinance.
Yeah, right.
Just need
Okay,
some
a motion.
motion on the floor that, hey, we motion that we accept the we're moving forward with the assessments. Please bring us the assessment ordinance. Something
much shorter than what you said before.
Something as simple. I just
Yeah.
want.
All right.
Okay.
Someone like to make a simple motion.
I'll make a motion. We recognize in a public hearing that assessments were duly ordered and now we can move forward with the assessments ordinance.
Perfect.
Second.
Even better.
Nice job.
Huber?
Yeah.
Mr. Brush?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Wakefield?
Yes.
Mayor Tim Schiffman?
Yes.
Mayor Harper?
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you all. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. We'll see you in September.
Thanks, Kim.
Bye.
Thank you, Clayton.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
Great. Anybody else want to say thank you?
Thank you.
Now's the time. Perfect.
Wow.
All right. 17, public hearing. Lucy, you're up.
Okay, this is a public hearing to review ordinance 2026-05, ending municipal regulations concerning outdoor lighting in Silverton. So the 2025 land use code update included outdoor lighting standards consistent with dark sky international standards. And these were adopted in support of town efforts to become a certified dark sky community. Upon adoption and implementation, the town began receiving feedback that from community members and business owners that the measures could have unintended consequences, including that these standards might be overly burdensome for the average property owner who's not a lighting expert, or that the standards could result in a darker Main Street. So after hearing much public comment and having board discussion, the board directed staff to propose amendments to the ordinance addressing three major concerns, which were lighting curfews. The current lighting curfew has a 10 p.m. shutoff requirement, lumen limits, and lumens are the amount of light output that is allowed on a site or per bulb, and then fully shielded lighting requirements. So this has gone before the board for discussion a few times, and I've included links to those previous meeting packets, recordings, and I won't dive into the full history now, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to do so. So based on board discussion, staff is presenting the following amendments. One, to amend standards to require lighting be directed downward and partially shielded. Right now, we require lighting to be fully shielded. So this would add a little bit of flexibility to the lighting fixture. Remove the requirements that all outdoor lighting be the minimum necessary to provide safety and functionality. Right now, we require lights to be turned off when no one is present to use them. And so we're proposing to exempt the downtown mixed-use districts from that. This ordinance proposes to remove lumen limits per net acre of property across all zoning districts. Remove the requirement that outdoor recreational facilities must comply with the Illuminating Engineering Society or IES lighting guidelines. Remove the current lighting standards for signage and just have signage follow the sign code. The existing standards have been difficult to interpret and administer. And add an exemption under the exempt lighting for what we are calling marquee lighting. Marquee lighting is when you have large unshielded light bulbs illuminating letters, numbers, symbols, or just on your building. So examples of this are like the Wyman Hotel's hotel sign, or the Teller House has marquee lighting over their windows. So that's what's proposed in your ordinance today. We brought this to the Planning Commission on August 18th, and they voted 5-1 to recommend approval with a few conditions. So the first condition was to strike out the provision be the minimum necessary to provide safety and functionality. As it's proposed in your ordinance, it reads provide safety and functionality. Sorry. I actually don't have that language in front of me, but the commission found the way it's currently written in the ordinance to be subjective. The second was to maintain some lumen limits. The commission recommended keeping a limit on output to avoid nuisance lighting, but did not suggest a particular limit. So options could include maintaining the current lumen limit. I will say most residential and commercial buildings in town right now do meet this lumen limit. And the current lumen limit right now is by lot size or by property, period, rather than lot size. So that's an option of one way we could amend it. Or we could also amend standards to just generally increase that lumen limit. This would allow greater flexibility and those few examples of non-conforming cases to continue. The Planning Commission also recommended maintaining sign standards. They like the idea of having a cap on the lumens or light output of a sign. And they also liked that right now we do require outdoor signs that are illuminated to be turned off when businesses are closed. So they essentially wanted to keep the same standards we have right now for signs, although the board could choose to provide direction to amend those. And then the last recommendation had to do with pathway lighting. So right now we exempt pathway lighting from our outdoor lighting standards, and the Planning Commission recommended that the intent of this be extended to lighting for stairways, so that lights could be elevated above a stair, essentially. So staff's recommendation is to approve ordinance 2026-05 with any conditions that the board finds to support the goals, values, and visions of the town. And you have suggested motions in your packet on page 337. Thank you. And if there's no initial questions, I'll hand it over to the board to open public comment and then go into discussion.
Thank you, Lucy.
Worse.
Anyone have any comments
Public comment
or
first.
discussion? You're part of the public.
Keep us on track here, Tim.
All right, public comment. Seeing none. Anyone online? No hands raised. No public comment. We're continuing. Okay. Would anyone like to say anything? Lindsay, you were there.
You were too.
I had plenty of comments.
I think I'll speak for the kind of like, it was funny because we were in there and we're like, oh, this is very different than what P&O came with. So I think what some folks on the planning commission felt they wanted to try to avoid was another like Lyman situation where the light was like very, very bright. And so I think it's blue and bright. And so there was lengthy discussion about, what was it, airplane hangers or something? It was like, we don't want an airplane hanger light in town.
Yeah.
And so I think it's to be the intent of them talking about the restriction on lumens isn't to like decrease what we currently have, but it's to protect town from an airplane hanger type light. Which seems to me reasonable for that. Hard to calculate, I think, is the challenge. So.
Current lightings on Main, on Green, was acceptable. They did not want a light war. I believe that was the term used, where new properties would pop up on Green and they would compete with who's the brightest building. Which made sense.
Mm-hmm.
See, you were there as well.
Lucy did a really good job at summarizing.
Did a great job.
I think the pathway lighting was a good catch. The sign standard was specifically about Hump Brothers Pizza sign and like dimming that somehow. We're turning that off during business hours.
Oh.
No, yeah, yeah.
I really want to encourage discussion because I don't want to be the only one. I know you were affected. I've been affected. We keep going around and around in circles on this topic. I have a lot of feelings and opinions on this. That's why I want everyone else to discuss this. So I don't have to be the one that.
To be honest, I'm going to defer to the Main Street business owners and the people that are vested in how this affects them for the most part. I'm definitely, interested in supporting the businesses and what they feel is necessary.
I have my marquee lights inside my building. For some reason, I don't know.
We did talk about the bear.
I am very passionate about preserving the business corridor. It is our only business corridor. And I think having those lights on and showing that we are open for business and that we are not just a sign that you can drive past and head up the road is imperative to our success. Like I said, we've gone over this time and time again, but I really want to hear from everybody else.
I like the idea of like a lumen limit that sets some sort of a cap that also, doesn't affect what's currently in place. Like I can totally get behind that scenario. I wonder, is that actually a realistic thing that we could do? Like, is there a specific number we could say right now that would be satisfying?
Or like a way to.
So one other comment I'm going to throw out there. Similar to other situations that we've been discussing, the ability to enforce a rule that is passed in this sense, I mean, it has to be realistic, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration. If you're going to pass a rule, what's the enforcement? What's the outcome for not abiding by it? And you have to be willing to do that. So that's just another comment.
I don't want to see a dark Main Street after hours. I mean, there's nothing better than going down Green Street when it's snowing late at night and seeing lights and the snow coming down.
I think to be clear, like I don't think anyone on the planning commission suggested that town should be dark. So I think we're now just trying to avoid a situation where there's a light.
But I thought,
like a huge bright light.
I thought it said if the business were closed, the lights need to be off.
No,
We are recommending to remove that from the ordinance.
I would like to say something, even though I'm not a decision maker. I've been involved with many towns who've dealt with dark sky issues. And unless that's what Silverton wants to kind of be known for, and if you think you're pulling people or making your citizens happy by being a dark sky community versus more your citizens be happy by having more people in town, then if it's not your thing, it's so limiting, and it does create a lot of issues, not only between different community members, but between events, between all sorts of things that happen. I think the way that the planning commission recommended having like a corridor and the way they've gone about doing this is very thoughtful and will help minimize light war issues, because it's a real thing. That sounds silly, but it is a real thing. Like I'm not going to name municipalities, but there are people out with lux meters. You can't have this. And they were measuring, with the lux meter to try to like they wanted this sign shut down and that has to be covered. And, oh, you can't have this special event because we're doing a star watching thing. So being dark sky is really cool. But if you're not like a full dark sky community and you're banking on that for some sort of reason, community, economy, whatever, you can go 20 seconds out of town and it's one of the darkest places on earth. I mean, I've hiked through these mountains. This is one of the darkest places. You don't have a huge light reference here. And so just from a legal standpoint, the way that they've recommended backing off on some of the requirements does help with enforcement. It does make sense from my perspective, having seen some really ugly for what it's worth.
I like the staff recommendations 1 through 8. Actually do a lot. And I would also like to remind the board that Gloria Kochberger, our former town administrator, wrote her senior thesis, Dark Skies, and how they do not help or assist small communities.
Wait,
They don't.
we're not.
Yeah, the paper that no one else has seen.
We're not debating about being a dark sky community. Didn't we let that go or?
Yeah.
We're just.
Yes, staff has gotten direction to stop pursuing dark sky for the town, perhaps explore Molus. And because of that, that's why we're bringing forward these recommendations. These recommendations are based on board direction, but these amendments remove us from becoming a dark sky community. However, it's not unheard of for communities to have outdoor lighting standards. And I think we've heard a desire from community members and from the board to maintain some level of outdoor lighting standards. I guess the question is, what do we want that to look like? And I think the largest question that we need to talk about is if we want to maintain some level of lumen limits. That's kind of our biggest hurdle right now.
Do we have an answer to Carl's question? Like, is there a limit right now that is there like a number that we could set right now that would?
Or does that create the light war? How does that?
Well, and I think I was speaking kind of more like hypothetically, like I think that that's not actually going to, I don't think that any specific number that we set down is going to satisfy all parties. And also be realistically enforceable. But I wish that it was like, I wish that we could just have a very clear line and it's like, oh, your light bulbs, but it's just not that simple, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think in the absence of a clear, in the absence of like a clear number that is well accepted, I think that we should stick away from lumen limits, but just to make my position clear, sorry to. Let's speak over you.
That helped next.
Steve, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just clarity on, I heard recreational areas are exempt from this, and would that be the lumen limit as well as the other components that they're exempt from?
Yes, recreational areas be exempt from the general outdoor lighting standards.
Okay, thank you.
So if we make a motion, this first one at the top, page 337. That would be 1 through 8 staff recommendations, and then we could move on.
Yeah, so approving the ordinance as presented would approve the ordinance as presented and not consider any of the planning commission's recommendations. If you did want to incorporate any of the planning commission's recommendations, you could just say, you could call it out by number.
Jim, the 1 and 4 seem like there's pretty good consensus around. Right, because the 1 is like, it's just ambiguous code.
I would recommend including 1. That was an oversight on staff. That whole provision should have been taken out.
Because that was just like, we only struck 1 word, but we need to do the whole thing. Right? Or am I misremembering? Okay, and then 4 was just the like, that's helping light up stairways. Yeah, which makes sense.
And I understood the conversation the other night. Yeah. Planning commission meeting, however, again, safety is subjective. You know, it's a lumen level that's safety for me. May not be for somebody else.
Right. But that one's not, but the lumen limit's not about.
Yeah, but there's discussions we had the other night. I mean,
Yeah.
we can sit and go around and around about a Hunt Brothers sign that's located inside someone's building.
Right about the first provision. The lighting be the minimum necessary to provide safety and functionality. How the planning commission found that to be subjective. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be, if you also find that to be subjective, I would include that in your motion.
I'm not gonna make a motion. I think someone else should.
Yeah, for anyone.
What's I don't understand, the commission's recommendation here on 4A. They're saying that new pathway lighting can't be more than 18 inches above the ground. Is that correct?
Right now, in the current code, we have a section of the outdoor lighting code where we have exempt lighting. And pathway lighting is included in that exemption. It doesn't have to meet the general standards. And the recommendation from Planning Commission was that we expand that exemption to encompass like pathway lighting essentially on a staircase. So like a staircase could have lighting that doesn't necessarily meet all the standards. Most likely the standard that it would not meet would be the Kelvin requirement for it to lower in light. So it's just adding more flexibility for lighting on staircases.
Okay.
Anyone? No, I'm gonna make a motion. One. What?
What else has to do it?
What I said, no one wants to.
I just think because there's still a question around, I don't know. I'm still feeling, I don't want to make a motion because I heard from planning commission and I've heard from other people in town around a lumen limit. And I know we don't want to detract from businesses. And that is not what I'm saying at all. I do not want to be taken out of context there. And that's why I feel like I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with removing all limits entirely.
Planning Commission also talked about Christmas lights. And also discussed potential of too many Christmas lights, too bright of Christmas lights. I mean, I feel like this is a rabbit hole we can go down. Exactly.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
I don't, but we only talked about Christmas lights because it was
Then they also,
that it was amended.
after X amount of time, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, it was also discussed that no one really wants to be the light police because running around checking lumen levels and wattage of bulbs wasn't really something someone wanted to do.
And
so these are all.
Can I ask real quick? Is there anything in this, or is there an option to almost treat it like a land use code where you have your code, but in certain circumstances you can request a variance or a special circumstance that can then be agreed upon, on a case by case basis? Or does that just open up Pandora's box?
You have to meet some pretty strict criteria for variance. So if you could meet the criteria for a variance, I can't think of a situation where you could, but you could create a special use to extend beyond the standards. But that would require going,
can the variance be adjusted?
Sorry, what was that?
Can the variance be open for, debate and adjusted, or is the variance law?
Yeah, I think what you're calling out is creating some flexibility to grant an exception to the outdoor lighting standards, which would go through maybe a special use permit. but not a variance process, but we could create special use permits for this. That would require anytime someone wanted to do lighting that went beyond, you know, what's in these standards to go to a public hearing. And a big part of our land use code update process was trying to get away from requiring people to do long, lengthy public processes. So that is an option. Or we could just kind of create those standards. So it's up to you all though.
I mean, my sense is this is getting into the weeds and really complicated. And if there's leeway to allow a case-by-case decision, you know, if it meets certain rather structured, you know, allowances, that it could be an expedited decision, you know, holidays, special events, something like that, that allows us to not pigeonhole everybody into the same.
Can I make a motion? Please.
Well, do you want to answer Dave's question first?
Oh, sorry.
There is an exception for temporary lighting for special events, if that was the question you were asking. But any other, you know, special exception would have to meet the parameters of the land use code. Otherwise, you're opening a can of worms that would get the town in trouble.
All right, just throwing that one out there.
Okay.
I move to approve ordinance 2026-05 and ordinance amending municipal regulations concerning outdoor lighting in Silverton, while also striking section 15-6-40, as well as amending the pathway lighting standards to apply to stairways.
The condition you just set was to strike the entire section of the code.
B1, I think you meant, sorry.
Yeah, it's 15640 B1A.
B1A, sorry. Okay, so can I start again?
Absolutely.
You could, it might be easier, trustee Josh, to just say the number that you want to include.
Okay.
I would like to include the amendment to the ordinance with numbers 1, 4, and whatever considered, something like that.
Yeah, condition 1.
Okay. I move to approve ordinance 2026-05 and ordinance amending municipal regulations concerning outdoor lighting in Silverton, as well as the planning commission's recommendations numbers 1 and 4.
Second.
Trustee Huber?
Yes.
Trustee Brosh?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Albertson?
No.
Trustee Wakefield?
Abstain.
Mayor Pro Tem Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Harper?
Yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Steve, you're up. Candle Mountain Indie Pass.
All right. Looking to increase just outreach and awareness of Candle Mountain and what it offers here. And it fits the mold for the Indie Pass, say, ski area, and feel like it would be a great, investment in staff as well as a little bit of a perk in that whole opt-in component. And happy to answer any questions, but overall, everything I've read about this opportunity and program and spoken with the folks at Indie Pass seems like a great fit for us, and recommend that we go with this.
And the marketing requirements that come along with the opting into this pass, something that we feel like it would easily absorb within current staff capacity.
Thank you.
Steve, did they have a predicted volume increase from when they have new resorts sign on? What, like, I'm thinking about what we could expect if like additional staffing is required or like what a line might look like.
I haven't found a total number. I have found very much their intentionality of trying to prevent ever being guilty of overloading areas with skiers and trying to, if I could just regurgitate that exact verbiage, essentially continue the spirit of an independent ski area and the volume of skiers that make that what the customer is looking for when they choose independent. I will share I think we're on the market for maybe 25 days last year. They sold out in day one this year. And they're pretty firm in holding their past numbers to preserve that experience I just referenced versus optimize profits and sell volume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Currently, Kendall, how many season passes are held by locals versus like day tickets? Do we know? Just thinking about like, I imagine if you're a local, you're buying a season pass, you're probably not going to buy maybe you'll buy an Indy pass, but it doesn't seem like it would actually eat too much into the profit margin for Kendall.
I don't.
Right?
I think it just kind of puts us on a larger list.
Yeah.
Powderhorn is part of this.
Yep. Powderhorn, Howelson Hills, maybe one of our next closest. Sunlight up there by Glenwood are areas that are included.
Sorry,
with
Steve,
it locally.
Steve, I'm not sure I missed anything here. Financially, how does, is there a relationship, like financial relationship being involved with this that the town would, or Kendall would benefit from, either like a direct financial relationship?
The relationship would be you get 15% less than the ticket value, but then you're increasing potentially visitation at that 85%. And so twice a year, Indy, they're tracking their pass holder visits, and we would get 85% times the pass holder visits.
Okay. So
that has an impact. They do social media blasts on if they're lodging options that would like to do promotions. So that's another, I think it was, there's some good statistics in there, a little bar graph on the number of 63% of respondents of the pass holders said they did book lodging. So really you're increasing visitation versus local landscape visitation versus local visitation.
Okay, so as sort of a pilot for other similar projects or partnerships, you call it, this would be a really good opportunity to try to study the impact on the entire town from Indy Pass holders, because this is sort of a captured audience that we presume will come in for the day, spend money elsewhere, stay overnight. So I would see this as a great opportunity for us to actually do some proper market research on what a new venture has on the impact on the town. So I'd like to put that out there. We sort of keep that on the radar if we do this, that it could be bigger, have more value than just the money that people are bringing to town to ski.
Yeah, did they give you a customer profile at all of who buys Indy passes?
I did not get that. That's a good question.
And there's no fee if we have no blackout days, is that correct?
Correct. I was concerned by that May 1 piece as a sticking point. They've assured me that if you meet the 4 social postings and the 4 email blasts, then you're in compliance and there's no annual fee.
And this is like a yearly contract, right? So to Dave's point, you can kind of test, see how it goes
Yes.
and change as necessary. Yeah.
Steve, I have a quick question. I don't know what the impact will be. I don't think any of us do, or where this puts us on the radar nationwide. This won't impact any of our school days, will it?
Our school days. Like
when our students go over there?
Oh, Fridays. I can't say with confidence either way.
I mean, Kendall is usually open on Fridays during school day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
The
right about
special
that,
thing
that's
is like
a
ski
spot.
team practice.
And running over Silvertonians and that's what I'm saying. I don't know what volume this is gonna be.
I don't think.
Big one.
I think it would be a celebration if there were
perfect
10 or 15 Indy Pass holders on one particular Friday, let alone 5 particular Fridays, like 2 per Friday over 5.
Perfect.
Maybe I'd be wrong. Maybe they come in droves. I don't know.
Thank you, Steve. Someone like to get staff direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I agree.
A second.
So directed.
We have a first and a second.
Do we need a motion or is it just staff direction?
Staff direction.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to number 9, committee reports. 9A, Finance Committee. Anyone in that Finance Committee like to kick it off?
I can unless somebody else wants to.
Go for it, Doc.
I think the take home is we're sort of stable right now. We're not necessarily compared to 2025 showing significant improvement across the board. I think one of the concerns has been our sales tax, which has lagged a bit from last year, and it's redirected us to reset our 2027 projection. I think the number is 1.8 to, correct me if I'm wrong, 1.8 to 1.6 million, which would also guide us in some of our planning on capital projects and so forth. So I think we're going to have to be very cautious as we decide on how we're going to spend money going forward into 2027, knowing this has not been a banner year in terms of one of our largest revenue generators, which has been sales tax so far. We're still a bit behind in terms of, I think, the two-month lag, so we don't have all the information yet, but we'll have a better sense probably in, I guess, September, October, where we'll be. Feel free to add anything else, you guys, if you'd like.
I just, we had a good discussion around, where we were going to make our capital contributions. We discussed our, some of our deferred maintenance and, things of that nature. Just continuing that discussion, I feel like. So getting, I guess, prepared for budget season.
Correct. We talked about the 2027 budget forecasting considerations, 2027 budget philosophy, nonprofit requests, contingencies, and global. Absolutely. And overall, it was a good meeting.
Yeah, and just one thing to add, so ties into Prop 123 commitment. So we'll be applying for the local planning capacity grant, eyeing
the fall round, which is in September. Our current local planning capacity grant requires a 20% match from the town. And that pays for the housing director salary. The local planning capacity grant is not intended to indefinitely support salary costs. So the match has been bumped up to 50% for this next go round. So we received direction to outreach to the county for a support request to go in 50-50 with us on that 50% match. So it's looking like an ever slimmer possibility of getting a joint work session with the county on the calendar before we make that request. So now just anticipating that we'll be going to the September 9th commissioner meeting to present that match request for the September application.
Terrific. 9B, Utility Committee. Ron?
Well, we discussed the possibilities of some increase in utility rates, and there'll be some decrease in utility rates. And we are going to start installing some meters, I believe this year, is that correct?
Next month.
No.
That's terrific.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. And then we also discussed fees for buildings that do have sprinkler systems. And how that will affect monthly bills there.
All the time or just if they go off?
All the time.
Okay, just checking.
It's a minimal fee.
Minimal fee.
Yeah, it's a minimal.
$15 to $18, something like we discussed.
When do you think you're gonna bring rates, or when I guess we have to meet again as utility committee to go over rate structure and then bring it to the full board again?
Yes.
Yeah. We can put in meters before we know rates?
We discussed it this morning, me and Elizabeth, probably within the next week or so, we'll have another utility meeting because we're really charging forward with those rates.
Yeah.
So, yeah, me and Stuart's been going back and forth, so.
So yeah, we'll solidify rates and then
go forward, so. It might be mid next month, we'll see, but it's all.
Just, they've got meters, switch it over. You can.
Who's getting the meters?
Commercial properties first.
Yeah.
3-phase.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry,
And that's where the rates could go down if you're using less water than the flat rate now, is that?
Well, so just a little preview, we looked at, what that free allowance is and what that base rate is going to be. And then that free allowance, after the free allowance, then what that rate is per 1,000 gallons.
Gotcha.
So that per 1,000 gallons, and I'll stress this again, I stressed it in utility committee, 1,000 gallons is, we threw out some numbers in the $5 range. $5, you get 1,000 gallons. And the comparison is you go to the grocery store and you buy a 24 pack from Walmart or City Market, and it costs you $3. Well, you're only getting about 4 gallons in that total. So that's where we're playing with numbers. And like Ron said, there might be a small increase on here, but then there's going to be decreases here. And that's what me and Stuart are working on, is to adjust that, because the momentum that we have gotten and for utility rates, we want to keep that going for capital improvements, all those things. We don't want to go backwards. So this is a very, up and down. What does this look like? What does this look like? And we're getting really close. We had a really good meeting last Thursday about that. So.
Bless you.
Thank you.
We also talked about remedies for those that are not paying and have outstanding billing. And the percentage of Silverton that is not paying into the system, we discussed that as well. And how we're gonna fix that.
Yep, and I believe that's probably coming the next
Yeah, the
71.
September meeting.
yeah,
Yeah.
week's paper.
Wait, is that right?
All right. Perfect. 9C, Planning Commission. Lindsay.
Well, we discussed the majority of it already, the lighting code. And then we heard from an applicant in the county to do a boundary adjustment for Raven's Nest.
Lloyd Schwartz is.
Lloyd Schwartz, he's a character.
Terrific. All right, 9D, Library Board.
Yes, Misty is planning a food drive at the library, September 18th and 19th. So keep an eye out for that. The big project is ongoing ADA access at the library. So we have a fairly short window to spend down some grant funding. So we are working with Lauren Liu to develop plans for putting in an ADA accessible parking pad and pathway. So more info there soon. And Misty is also starting back up the library podcast, which has been a big hit. I hear Jim's gonna be a guest. Oh.
I did agree to that, didn't I?
So, but yes,
We'll talk movies, books,
it's fun. Yeah.
food pantry.
Yep.
A lot of fun.
You're also making hot dogs tomorrow, don't forget.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Chef hat.
I'm getting a chef hat in my apron.
It's not apes with your face on it.
That's not what they call me, but yes. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Of course.
Okay, 10, any open to any future agenda items that we would like to discuss? Perfect. Seeing none, go to public comment. Seeing none in the room, public comment online. Seeing none there as well. Things are nice these days. Close public comment. And with that, I adjourn this meeting. It is 7:50 PM. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.